In the heart of New York City's corporate hustle, where ambition echoed louder than kindness, there was an intern named Armin. He wasn't the kind to draw attention. Dressed in second-hand clothes and tucked away in the farthest corner of the office, he quietly observed everything. While others competed to speak first in meetings or took credit for half-finished ideas, Armin chose to listen. He carried a small notebook, scribbling down thoughts, suggestions, and problems he would later solve, quietly, without applause. No one knew how late he stayed after everyone left. He would tidy up files left scattered across desks, correct spreadsheets riddled with mistakes, and silently fix issues that others never even noticed. While the team fought over presentation slides, Armin made sure the numbers added up, the facts aligned, and the story made sense. No one thanked him. No one even asked who did it. He didn't mind. One rainy evening, Armin saw the janitor struggling to stay awake during his shift. The man had been cleaning all day. Without saying a word, Armin walked out and returned with a cup of hot coffee, placing it gently beside the janitor with a smile. He didn't post about it. He didn't boast. Because for Armin, greatness wasn't loud. He knew the world rarely notices the quiet ones. But he also believed that consistency, compassion, and hard work would one day make their way to the surface. Every late night, every unnoticed fix, every small act of kindness, it wasn't weakness. It was preparation. Armin wasn't waiting to be seen. He was becoming someone worth noticing. And when the moment came, he wouldn't need to speak. His actions would say it all. The day of the big presentation arrived, and the entire office buzzed with excitement. The project was a major breakthrough, one that had taken months of effort, endless hours of research, and quiet dedication. Armin had poured his heart into it, often staying long after the lights dimmed, perfecting the details others had overlooked. But as the senior team took the stage, confidently presenting the work as their own, Armin remained seated in the back row. Slide after slide, he watched his ideas, his designs, and his solutions unfold, without a single mention of his name. His chest tightened, not with anger, but with something deeper. He had hoped, perhaps naively, that integrity would win on its own. But here he was, invisible again, clapping politely as the room filled with applause for others. For a fleeting moment, he wanted to stand up, to speak, to claim what was his. But then, he paused. Let them have the spotlight, he thought, steadying his breath. Let them enjoy the applause. If my work has true value, it won't stay hidden forever. That day, Armin learned something powerful. Recognition earned through noise fades quickly. But actions rooted in truth echo longer than any applause. He walked out of the conference room not defeated, but determined, because he knew his journey wasn't about stealing attention, but building something real. Quietly, he returned to his corner of the office and opened his notebook. There were still problems to solve. Still ideas to shape. And still, a future waiting to be earned, not through words, but through work. Late one evening, as storm clouds gathered outside and tension filled the office, disaster struck. The entire network crashed. Systems froze. Files vanished. And worse, financial records worth millions were suddenly inaccessible. Panic erupted. Managers barked orders, team leads blamed each other, and the so-called experts began disappearing one by one, slipping away with excuses and silence. The ones who had always spoken the loudest had nothing left to say. But one person didn't leave. Armin sat at his desk, calm and focused. No spotlight, no orders. Just responsibility. While others scrambled, he quietly opened his personal backups, copies he had taken during late nights when no one had noticed. Line by line, file by file, he restored the infrastructure, reconnected the systems, and corrected the corrupted financial logs. No fanfare. No audience. Just a silent determination to make things right. He worked through the night, guided only by the soft hum of the servers and the quiet rain outside. By morning, the entire system was operational again. Emails flowed, data returned, and everything functioned like nothing had ever gone wrong. Armin didn't leave a note. He didn't wait for recognition. He simply logged off, stretched his aching hands, and walked out into the rising sun. When the CEO arrived and saw the office running like normal, after hearing of the chaos just hours earlier, he stood in stunned silence. "Who did this?" he asked, scanning the room. No one answered. But somewhere in a quiet corner, a closed notebook sat on an empty desk, its pages filled with the solutions no one else had thought to create. The question lingered, but the truth had already started to unfold. The following day, the company called an emergency meeting. The boardroom was filled, managers, executives, and board members all sat in confusion, still trying to understand how the company had narrowly escaped catastrophe. The IT head began presenting the log records. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Every restored file, every fix, every backup had one thing in common: they had all been initiated from a single account. Armin's. Then came the security footage. The screen showed a time-lapse of the previous night. While others had fled in chaos, there was Armin, alone, working tirelessly, eyes focused, hands steady. Not once did he look for approval. Not once did he ask for help. He had simply acted. A hush fell over the room. Eyes that had once dismissed him now looked in awe. The CEO stood up slowly and said with deep emotion, he didn't speak, but his actions roared. The door opened, and Armin entered quietly, unaware of the revelation taking place. The CEO walked over and extended his hand. "You saved us." Not with noise, not with titles, but with integrity, skill, and silent leadership. Right there, in front of the entire company, Armin was offered a full-time role, far above the level of an intern. He was also invited to speak to the board, not to impress, but to inspire. When he took the microphone, he paused, then spoke with humility. "I didn't do it for recognition," he said. "I did it because it was the right thing to do." Sometimes, it's not your voice, but your values that make the loudest impact. The room erupted in applause, not for a flashy speech, but for the truth, finally seen. Armin had proven that silence, when filled with purpose, can echo louder than any words. Armin stood before a group of high school students, their eyes filled with uncertainty, doubt, and quiet dreams. The classroom was small, the walls worn, but the room was alive with attention. These were kids from tough neighborhoods, many told they'd never make it, that they weren't loud enough, bold enough, leader enough. Armin looked at them and saw pieces of his younger self, unnoticed, underestimated, and hungry for something more. He didn't speak with flair. No dramatic entrance. No flashy slides. Just calm honesty. He shared his story, the lonely intern, the stolen credit, the night of crisis, and the moment truth finally rose without him ever demanding it. He didn't exaggerate. He didn't claim to be a hero. He simply spoke about the power of showing up, staying true, and doing what's right even when no one is watching. As he neared the end, he paused, looked around the silent room, and said, "The world may overlook your words, but it cannot ignore your impact. You don't need noise to be noticed. Just be true, be kind, and let your actions speak." The room was still for a moment. Then a single clap broke the silence, followed by more. Every student stood, clapping not out of politeness, but from a place of genuine awe. In the back of the room, a boy leaned toward his friend and whispered, "I want to be like him." Armin smiled, not because he was celebrated, but because he knew, quiet greatness had sparked again. And from that small room, a ripple of action-driven change had begun, soft, steady, unstoppable. Armin's journey is a powerful reminder that true strength doesn't always shout, it often whispers through quiet acts of integrity, hard work, and compassion. In a world that celebrates noise and visibility, he chose humility and consistency. He didn't demand recognition, he earned it through silent perseverance and a deep sense of responsibility. From being the invisible intern to becoming the backbone of an entire organization, Armin proved that you don't need to speak loudly to be heard, you just need to act with purpose. His story echoes a universal truth: when your intentions are pure and your actions are driven by value, the world eventually notices, even if it takes time. Armin inspired not just a boardroom, but a generation of students by showing that legacy isn't built on noise, but on quiet, honest effort. In the end, he taught us all a timeless lesson: be quiet, stay kind, work hard, and let your actions speak.